Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking at this really interesting article. It's all about rewiring your mind for abundance, and honestly, the title alone really caught my attention. It's called Rewiring Your Mind for Abundance. Changing your thoughts, feelings, and actions transforms your reality. And it's from mysticalabundance.blogspot.com.
Okay.
It makes you wonder, how much power do our thoughts and feelings actually have in shaping our lives? Like, how much control do we really have?
Yeah, it's a big question. And this article, like you said, it dives right into some pretty surprising insights. For example, it starts with this idea that our brains don't actually experience the world, directly.
Okay.
They rely on all the sensory input to understand what's happening. So it's almost like our brain is in a dark room trying to figure out what's going on in the outside world. And it can only use the information it gets through our senses.
Huh. So if our brains are basically working with incomplete information, does that mean that our perception of reality could be completely off?
That's the really interesting part. Think of it this way. Like, imagine your brain is a movie director,
Okay.
and they can only work with the footage that the camera crew brings back.
Okay.
So the director, our brain, has to make a story, and it has to make sense based on what they see, even if that footage is, missing pieces or even misleading.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's like those optical illusions where your brain tricks you into seeing something that isn't actually there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. So how does this brain in the dark idea connect to rewiring for abundance?
Well, if our brains are always interpreting and constructing our reality based on limited information,
Right.
then our thoughts and our feelings play a huge role in that whole process. Because our internal state, even without anything actually happening outside of us, can trigger real responses in our brain and body. And that shapes how we see and experience things.
That's a pretty powerful concept.
Yeah.
So even if I'm not actually, in a danger situation, just thinking about something scary can create a physical response in my body.
Exactly. The brain doesn't always know the difference between an actual threat and something we just imagine.
Yeah.
It reacts to whatever signals it's getting, whether it's from our senses or just our thoughts.
Okay, so this is where it starts to get really interesting for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if our thoughts have such a strong impact, does that mean we can actually change our reality by changing how we think?
This article definitely suggests that it is possible, and it talks about this idea of a thought-feeling feedback loop.
A feedback loop. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Yeah, so basically our thoughts, they trigger feelings, and then those feelings then create more thoughts. So it's like a continuous cycle. So if you're always thinking about, not having enough or feeling fearful,
Yeah.
your brain picks up on those signals and it reinforces that kind of mental framework. And then you start attracting experiences that match those feelings.
Wait, so it's not just a downward spiral. This loop can work in a positive direction too, right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly where the rewiring for abundance comes in. If we can focus on positive thoughts and feelings, like feeling grateful or, feeling abundant, we can actually start to rewire our brains to experience the world differently from a more abundant perspective. And then we start to attract experiences that match those, those more elevated emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're not just stuck with whatever, mental patterns we've developed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
We can actually shift those patterns and create a whole new reality for ourselves.
That's exactly it. The article really emphasizes that we have the power to choose, which thoughts and feelings we want to cultivate.
Right.
It's not about pretending the negative doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's about making a conscious effort to focus on the positive.
Okay, but let's be realistic for a second.
Yeah.
It can't be easy to just suddenly change your whole mindset, especially if you've been thinking and feeling a certain way for a really long time.
You're right. It takes a lot of effort and intentionality. And the article actually acknowledges that most people, they wait until they're in a lot of discomfort before they're even willing to think about changing.
It's like we get comfortable with our discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not really helping us.
Yeah.
It's almost like we need some kind of crisis to, shake things up.
That's definitely a common human experience. We tend to stay in our comfort zones, even when they've become, pretty uncomfortable. But the article really encourages us to be more proactive about change, We don't have to wait for everything to fall apart to start making changes.
Right.
We can start making those shifts right now.
I really appreciate that message of empowerment. But where do we even begin? I mean, just the thought of rewiring my whole mind feels really daunting.
Well, the article gives us some pretty practical advice. It says we need to get really clear on who we want to become and then make a strong commitment to that vision.
So it's like defining your ideal self and then saying, like, this is who I am committed to becoming no matter what.
Exactly. And that commitment has to be stronger than the pull of your old patterns. It's about making a conscious choice to step outside of your comfort zone and embrace the unknown.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like deciding to run a marathon, right? You have to be fully committed to all the training and the whole process, even when it gets tough.
That's a great analogy. And just like training for a marathon, rewiring your mind for abundance, it's a gradual process.
Yeah.
It takes time, patience, and being kind to yourself.
So we need to be kind to ourselves and not get discouraged, if we slip up or have moments of doubt.
Absolutely. It's about making progress, not being perfect. You know, the key is to keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time.
Okay, this is all starting to make a lot of sense to me. We've talked about the brain being in the dark, that thought-feeling loop, and the importance of making a conscious choice to change.
Right.
But I'm still kind of stuck on this idea of changing your reality. Can we really manifest things just by changing our thoughts and feelings?
Well, that's where the concept of vibrational match comes in. The article says that when our internal state aligns with the reality we want to create,
Mm-hmm.
we start attracting experiences that match that vibration.
So if I'm feeling like abundant and joyful,
Yeah.
I'm more likely to come across opportunities and situations that reflect those feelings.
Oh, right.
It's like putting out a positive energy and then attracting positive experiences.
Exactly. But it's not just about feeling good,
Yeah.
It's about really embodying those feelings and taking action that's aligned with what you want.
So it's not enough to just sit around and visualize abundance. I actually have to take action toward my goals.
Exactly. It's about what they call inspired action. Action that comes from a place of alignment. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions are all in sync,
Yeah.
that's when you become a really powerful force for manifestation.
It's like that saying, energy flows where attention goes. If we're always focusing on what we want and taking action from a place of abundance, we're more likely to actually see those desires come true.
Exactly. The article makes it really clear that changing our mental framework, it's not just wishful thinking. It takes effort, consistent action, and a willingness to step outside our comfort zone.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty amazing challenge. I'm actually starting to get excited about all the possibilities.
That's the spirit. The more we practice aligning our thoughts, feelings, and actions, the easier it gets. It's like building a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
I really like that. This whole concept of rewiring for abundance is really speaking to me. It feels like a really powerful tool for creating a more fulfilling and joyful life.
It is, and the best part is that it's available to everyone.
Right.
We all have the ability to change our mindset and create a reality that we truly desire.
This conversation has been so insightful. But did the article leave us with any final thoughts or questions to ponder?
It did. And it's a message that I think is worth repeating. It says, the only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the choice to believe it's possible and the courage to take inspired action.
Wow, that's really powerful. It's a good reminder that we have the power to create the lives we want, but it all starts with believing in ourselves and then taking action from that belief.
Exactly. The article also posed a few questions to the reader, like, what did you think of this article? Did anything stand out to you in particular? What tip would you share about shifting your mental framework to inspire someone else to start their manifesting journey?
Those are all great questions for all of us to think about. What stood out to you the most from this article?
I think what resonated most with me is the emphasis on how interconnected our thoughts, feelings, and actions really are. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts. We need to actually feel those emotions in our bodies and then take action from that place of alignment.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like a three-legged stool. Thoughts, feelings, and actions. And we need all three of them working together to create the reality we want.
Exactly. And this article reminds us that we have the power to change our lives. It's a choice that we make every single day.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. It's giving me a whole new perspective on how our thoughts and feelings actually shape our reality. I feel like I have a new set of tools to work with now.
Me too. And remember, this is a journey, so be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and never stop believing in the power of your own mind to create the life you want.
It's funny. We talk about manifesting in abundance as these big, almost mystical concepts, but really it's about taking responsibility for our own mental and emotional state,
Right, yeah.
right?
I know. It's so easy to get caught up in that idea of the universe just handing us stuff.
Yeah.
But this article really emphasizes that we're not just, passive bystanders.
Mm.
We are active participants in creating our own reality.
And that's both empowering and kind of intimidating, right? I mean, it means we can't just blame outside circumstances for our own unhappiness.
Definitely. It's a big shift, like going from a passive mindset to an active one. But, with that responsibility also comes a lot of freedom because it means we have the power to choose something different. We can create a more abundant and fulfilling life, but we have to do it.
One of the things that keeps coming back to me is that idea of the vibrational match. It's like we're tuning our internal radio to the frequency of abundance.
I love that analogy. And it's like any skill, it takes practice. We have to get better at noticing our thoughts and feelings and then choosing the ones that, match the reality we want.
And then, like the article says, taking action from that place of alignment.
Exactly.
So it's not enough to just think and feel abundant. We have to act in ways that support that abundance.
Exactly. It's like bridging the gap between what's going on inside and what's happening around us. And when those things, our thoughts, feelings, actions, when they're all working together, that's when really amazing things can happen.
So for our listeners who are ready to start rewiring their minds for abundance, what's like your top piece of advice? Where should they begin?
Honestly, I think the first step is just awareness. Start paying attention to your thought patterns. Notice when you're, slipping into negativity or scarcity. And then gently redirect your focus to something more empowering. And gratitude is a great place to start.
That's such a great reminder. We can always find something to be grateful for, even when things are tough. And that simple act of gratitude can really shift our whole perspective.
Absolutely. It's like planting a seed. Every time we choose a grateful thought, it's like we're nurturing that seed of abundance within us.
This deep dive has been so insightful, and I think it's given us all a lot to think about.
I agree. It's a great reminder that we have so much more power than we realize.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring this whole idea of rewiring your mind for abundance. Play around with the ideas we've talked about, see what works for you. And remember, the journey to a more abundant life starts with a single step.
And never underestimate the power of your own mind. You can create the reality you desire.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds open and those hearts full of possibility.